What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Corey Austin Theorem. So, just a quick update. I am on day 42. No 7-hydroxy. You notice I didn't say clean or sober because I have drank alcohol a couple of times in those past 42 days. More so recently. I went well over a month without doing anything, just to kind of give myself that, time to kind of get back on the healing track. But anyway, how am I doing? I'm doing good. I will say, yeah, things are starting to improve quite a lot at day 42. I would say my energy is quite a bit better. I haven't been feeling quite as lethargic as I have been previously. Really, honestly, the only thing that is not 100% at this point is my sleep. That's still, I don't know. I'm still, for the last couple of hours, every morning, I'm just kind of laying there, not really sleeping. I don't know if it's a cortisol spike or what the technical term or reason for it would be, but I just know that sleep pretty good for the most part up until right around maybe 4 in the morning, and then at that point kind of start coming to, I kind of start waking up a little bit, and then I just have trouble going back to sleep after that. And my body's tired. I'm kind of like in a slumber, which is in between sleeping and awake. So my body's tired, maybe even, but my mind, I guess, is just, how when you start to get sleepy, you get that, you literally can almost feel those chemicals mixing around in your brain, right? The ones that actually cause you to drift off into oblivion. You can actually feel that starting to happen sometimes, right? You know how you'll be laying there and then you'll all of a sudden get that feeling of just, and your eyelids get a little heavy, and then it's coming. It's only a matter of a moment or two and I'm going to be out, right? Once I wake up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, that feeling is just completely gone. It's just completely gone. It's like I can't find it anywhere, right? It is quite frustrating. But like I said, I try to focus on the positive, and the positive is, at least I'm not dope sick, man. At least I'm not in physical withdrawal. At least I'm not having cold chills. At least I'm not having horrible, runny stools. I mean, at least I'm not sweating and having restless legs and chicken skin and the alien chest where you feel like something's literally trying to crawl out of your body from inside. At least I'm not having all those things. So I tend to look at it as the glass is half full, sort of optimistic sort of approach. Yeah, sleep's still a little bit wonky, but I'm still getting, at least 6 hours or so probably most nights. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good considering, and that's, you look at most average adults, they're getting anywhere from 6 to 8 hours anyway. So I'm really probably getting about as much sleep as I need, to be honest with you. It would be nice to not have to wake up and, just kind of lay there tweaking at the ceiling 2 hours before your alarm goes off every morning. But, it is what it is. I am thankful that it's not worse and that I'm not in a worse situation. Really quick, I just want to reiterate to some people out there about 7-hydroxy. I'm not going to go all in and say that Kratom products themselves should be banned or anything like that. I do think that Kratom powder and the capsules that can be measured out, there probably should be some sort of regulation with it, because there have been deaths reported as a result of Kratom itself. and just kratom toxicity and stuff like that. A lot of people try to push back on that, and I'm not going to sit here and, you know, cite any sources or anything like that, but there have been instances where the only thing that was found in the person's system is kratom, right? A lot of the instances, there were other substances, you know, including alcohol and stuff like that in a person's system, which obviously, you know, when something like that happens, you can't necessarily turn around and blame it on kratom, nor would you want to, because alcohol kills tons of people every year too. You know, so do other substances. You know, so does heroin, so does, you know, fentanyl, right? Cocaine, same thing, kills tons of people every year. So you don't want to completely disregard the negative impacts that kratom can potentially have, but you also don't want to conflate the two and just turn around and blame it on kratom because it's an easy target, when all of these other substances kill people probably at a much higher click rate than what kratom does, right? But my wife saw online the other day where 3 people had passed away from 7-hydroxy. Right? Now again, these people had alcohol in their system, right? And it didn't say how much alcohol these people had in their system. I asked her to go back. She said, you should talk about this on your channel. I was like, okay, hold on. I've been doing this a while, right? It's the internet. And if you go on preaching about something that is not true, and people can go and try to vet your claim, and it is proven that what you said is not correct, the internet will let you know, right? I'm one person. I've got over 1,600 subscribers. So that's a lot of people who could potentially listen to one thing that I say and say to themselves, well, that doesn't sound right, and then go and Google it and, you know, learn that I was incorrect, right? So I asked her, I sent her back to the article, look it up, because if you're saying that there was 7-hydroxy and also alcohol in their system, how do we know it wasn't the alcohol? How do we know it wasn't a combination of the two that did them in? You know, so I want to be clear. I'm not coming on here, you know, obviously I'm speaking out against 7-hydroxy. I think the 7-hydroxy should be banned. It's an adulterated form of upscaled alkaloids that exist in kratom. It's not necessarily kratom, but there's so many people that split hairs over that, and I just think it's ridiculous. It still uses and utilizes alkaloids that are found in kratom, and it puts a shit ton of them in there to get you really, really, really super high, when natural kratom powder doesn't actually affect you in that way, right? It's not as potent, right? You have to take more of it, right? But if what 7-hydroxy does is isolates a couple of the mood-enhancing alkaloids of kratom, and then it just upscales it and puts it into a pressed pill format that just gets you way more high because it's way more concentrated in 7-hydroxy mitragynine. And then I think they also use something called pseudodoxanol. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, don't hold me to it. But the ones I used to take, those were the 2 alkaloids that were utilized in that pressed tablet. But I just wanted you guys to know that it's happening. You know, there are people that are dying that have this stuff in their system. Now, am I blaming it all on the 7-hydroxy? No. But the fact still remains, there's still 7-hydroxy found in these people's system. And I had a woman reach out to me on my channel about a month ago, and I think I mentioned this on one of my other videos, and her 22-year-old son died from kratom, toxicity from kratom. And she swears to me, I spoke with her a little bit via messaging, and she swore to me that Kratom was the only thing in his system when they did toxicology and autopsy reports. So a perfectly healthy 22-year-old kid died from Kratom toxicity, right? Now, you know, we can always sit here and say, and of course there's going to be people online that still want to be taking it, and they hear me and they think I'm on here bashing Kratom, and so, no. You know, there's always an element of, well, people are just idiotic with it. They shouldn't be taking so much. And people love to pull that card. They do. They love to pull that card. They love to come on here and listen to one video from someone like me and then think that I'm just on here campaigning against Kratom and trying to get it all federally outlawed. That's not what I'm doing. And of course, there's a component of personal accountability. And if you're going and you're taking a kilo of Kratom in one day and you're just constantly just shoving it down your throat, obviously there's an element of personal accountability with that. But it's not being regulated right now. Okay? So really, when you talk about personal accountability, in a lot of ways that kind of cuts the legs out from that argument of personal accountability, because there's also a lot of evidence to show that younger people are going to tend to not have that filter, and they're not going to have that cutoff point that tells them, hey, it's a little too much, you've done a little too much, back off, stop. And there's also the element of people who are addicted to substances, people who have addictions. A lot of times, you know, in a lot of, you know, drug addicted or drug addictive communities, for lack of a better term, you know, the talking point is a drug addict has no ability to control how much they're using of something. They might for a while, but eventually it's going to progress and progress and progress and progress to a point of abuse and misuse, right? So you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth and say, well, a person died because they don't know how to control it. Yeah, but according to a lot of literature, drug addicts will never be able to control how much they use of something. You get my drift? So it's hard to sit here and, you know, play the personal accountability card and say, well, that's so-and-so's fault that they died because they should know not to take so much, when there's really truly no regulation or a lot of literature out there that tells you how much Kratom is too much. You know, and how much Kratom is too much for me when it may not be for the next person, or vice versa. You know, you could put myself and some 22-year-old kid in the same room together, and over a 6-hour period we both take the same amount of Kratom, and he could die and I could still be sitting there just talking like we are now. You never know, because there's no regulation. And again, very little literature and even anecdotal testimony there that really tells these consumers, okay, this is probably erring on the side of a little too much and it's getting dangerous now, or you're probably good if you take about this amount. You really don't know. I mean, you know, the package gives you a little bit of indication of what serving size is and things of that nature, but you know people are pushing the boundaries on that shit constantly, right? So you're asking a bunch of people who, many of them are addicted to substances, many of them have past abuse history and misuse history with opioid type substances, whether you consider Kratom an opioid or not. I know pharmacologically it's technically not an opioid, but it acts on the opioid receptors. It does basically the same thing and even more than what many synthesized opiates do. So, you know, people like to get on here and just split hairs, and I've had people continuing to do that, and I just want to, you know, make sure that people understand, if you want to keep taking Kratom and And if you want to continue to take 7-hydroxy or whatever it is and continue that self-destruct, just continue to do it. Just continue to do it. You're welcome to get on here and give your opinion and, you know, say that 7-hydroxy is not even addictive. I came off of it and didn't have any withdrawals, which I don't believe, by the way, unless you were a person that just hardly ever took it and you weren't taking it every day and you were just taking it every once in a while. If you're doing it every once in a while, yeah, you're not going to have physical withdrawals. But there's many people that don't use it that way, and really, I would argue, can't use it that way. They just don't have the ability to. You know, the drug and the way the drug makes them feel is very cunning and baffling. You know, and many people just don't have the ability to control it. So, you know, I feel like we should cease with this narrative of, well, it's not addictive. I didn't get addicted to it. Well, people are out here using it like idiots. I had somebody say to me one time, well, it says right there on the package, don't take more than 5 a month. Why would you go and take it every day like that? People are just idiots. And I thought to myself, who's the idiot? You obviously, I mean, how little self-awareness and just general awareness of human nature and drug addiction could you possibly have to sit here and say that, you know, something that has an opioid-like effect and it makes you feel high as a fucking kite when you take it, you're gonna give that to a bunch of people who have opioid use disorder and who have in the past been addicted to opioids and basically still are, and then blame them for being idiots for taking it more than 5 times a month. If you've ever had any sort of addiction to opioids in your life, where you became physically dependent upon that substance, you can't take something like 7-hydroxy and only use it 5 times a month. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're eventually going to progress or descend, whichever is a more appropriate term, back down the rabbit hole of consistent daily use, right? And so you get this plethora of people out there that are just so terrified that somebody like me, who's experienced what I've experienced with it, and who has a channel who talks about it, and the channel is growing, you have so many people that are terrified that I'm going to go out here and get the substance banned. You know, I'm trying to help people, bro. I'm trying to help people. You know, this shit catches so many people off guard and grabs so many people by the sack of potatoes and just has them on lock before they even realize it. Right? And people just have this compartmentalization, disease of compartmentalization, I'll call it, where they just can't rectify the fact that, okay, I can drive to about 100 head shops within 20 minutes of my house. I can walk in, I can tell them what I want, hand them my debit card, pay for it, and all 100 of these places will sell me this stuff that gets me extremely high. With the fact that it is a severely dangerous and highly addictive substance. They can't marry the two, right? They can't wrap their brain around the fact that this is something that they are legally allowed to buy. They don't have to go into the back alleyways of the inner city to get some shady drug dealer to give it to them. But yet, it is a seriously dangerous and highly addictive substance, especially the 7-hydroxy. Now listen, I think Kratom is too. But I think Kratom is different in the sense that I don't think the addictive properties of Kratom powder itself is on the same level as something like 7-hydroxy, right? And I'm only speaking from experience, because I've taken the Kratom powder and I've also taken the 7-hydroxy. The 7-hydroxy was infinitely worse, okay? Infinitely worse. You know, addiction to Kratom powder can be serious too, and the withdrawals can be pretty bad too, especially if you're taking high amounts of it. But I just can't put it on the same playing field as something like 7-hydroxy. I just can't, right? But, you know, so I'm not necessarily on here trying to speak out against Kratom powder, but you got to understand, if there aren't some sort of regulations put on it, you're gonna keep having this reoccurring theme where people misuse it and people die from it. And I get it. I mean, you can sit here and say, well, it is what it is. They should be more responsible. They should slow down a little bit. They should this, they should that. Doesn't matter. People are always gonna go overboard with something, and you gotta remember, many times, oftentimes, when people go overboard with something and end up dying, they don't realize they're doing it. You know? I think oftentimes there aren't a lot of symptoms that pop up and arise and cause them to say, okay, well, I should probably slow down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people are getting a lot of that. I think what's happening is people take a certain amount and then they compile, you know, and are taking more within a given period of time than they really should. And the next thing you know, it's just too late. It's just too late. You know, but anyway, a little bit of rambling, but I just want to continue to pass the word that there is help out there if you need it. And if you're on 7-hydroxy, I still get so many people messaging me daily about this stuff. And there's so many people. It's so funny because you'll look on there and there will be one of those idiotic people that 7-hydroxy isn't even addictive. I was taking it for this amount of time and I went 4 days without taking it. Didn't have any physical withdrawals at all. And then you'll look directly up under it and somebody will be talking about, I've been on this shit for a year. I fucking hate it. I want off this stuff so bad. I'm so scared. I'm desperate. I need help. It's so insidious. It's the worst thing I've ever experienced. It's even worse than heroin and pain pill. I mean, you should hear people. Just go look at the comments sometimes. For the people that are out there that think it's not addictive and are drinking your own Kool-Aid and then trying to force your Kool-Aid down other people's throats, it doesn't really matter because people don't really believe you anyway. Anybody who's ever messed with it and been dependent upon it or taken it for any length of time fucking knows better than what you're saying, than that bullshit you're spewing. But the thing about it is, you have to remember that for each person that comes on spewing that ridiculous narrative that is not even addictive, there's 100 people that comment on that same video that tell you exactly whether it's addictive and exactly how it is. And so, you know, I typically, I mean, sometimes if I have some time, I'll say something back just in hopes of maybe convincing them that, hey, you know, you're an addict. Don't believe your own bullshit, right? Don't drink your own Kool-Aid because you're wrong. This shit's very dangerous. But a lot of times, I think they know that what they're saying is bullshit. They're just trying to sell their own narrative so that stuff can stay legal and they can continue to take it. People like taking it. It feels good. Makes you feel good. Right? And I'm not denying that. I mean, it does make you feel good. But it's not worth the long-term consequences and the long-term risks associated with it either. I gotta go. I'm pulling into the driveway. Love you guys very much. Everybody stay strong out there. I hope you use this channel and these videos as strength to help you get to where you need to be in your either Kratom journey or 7-hydroxy journey. It's doable. you can get off. Whether you have to go to a professional detox, whether you taper. I've seen people online that have tapered. There's people that have just sacked up and done it cold turkey and taken a buttload of vitamin C and have gotten through with it, gotten past it. It's doable. It's doable, guys. But if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, let me know where you're at. And yeah, that's it. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.